Water is made up of hydrogen and oxygen. Africa is a continent. There are 365 days in a year. The triangle has 3 sides. You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. Each of these are statements of fact. They are true. And in our story for today from Matthew, Jesus makes these 2 statements of fact. You are the salt of the earth, and you are the light of the world. And in my sermon a few weeks ago, I ended it with some similar statements of fact. You might recall them. You are forgiven. You are loved. You have God's grace. And this message really picks up where that one left off, because we already know the facts, friends. You know, you have been chosen, you have been loved, and you have been forgiven. You are a part of God's family. Those are the facts. And here, Jesus is saying to his disciples, and he is saying to us, be who you are. Be salt. Be light. So what does it mean to be the salt of the earth? What does it mean to be the light of the world? Well, before we talk about that, let's remember what Jesus said to his disciples right before this. The Beatitudes. We heard those last week. And in the Beatitudes, Jesus names the reality around him and his followers. In that world, and very much still in our own today, there is crushing poverty. There's tremendous grief. There is hunger. There's a need for mercy. There is war. There is violence. There's oppression. And there is injustice. There is persecution. And there is pain. And friends, it is into that world Jesus says, you are to be salt. You are to be the light. Now, both salt and light do not exist for themselves. Let's first think about how we use salt in our cooking. We add salt because it enhances the flavors around it, right? In Eugene Peterson's The Message translation of the Bible, this piece about salt is written like this. Quote, "Let me tell you why you are here. You're here to be the salt seasoning that brings out the God flavors of this earth." So friends, as salt, we add to what God is already doing. We draw those things out. We point to where we see God active in the world. We point to where we already see God's love and God's grace. And we act as God's helpers. We act as God's partners. Another way that we could think about this is, in Jesus' world, food would go bad very quickly. I don't know if you know this, but in Jesus' time, there were no refrigerators, right? So salt was added to preserve food. And I was reminded this week that salt is a preserver of life. So we are called to preserve life. So how do we do that? We might do that by making other people's lives better, easier, and filled with as much goodness as possible. Making sure others have food to eat, clean water, safe and warm homes, community, belonging. And as the light of the world, we also do not exist for ourselves. Light does not exist to be seen itself. Rather, light exists so that other things can be seen. So letting others be seen is living our lives as followers of Jesus in that same world that Jesus describes in the Beatitudes. Letting others be seen is shedding light on the injustice in this world and acting to change it. Letting others be seen is feeding the hungry. Letting others be seen is comforting those who hurt. Letting others be seen is giving and receiving forgiveness. Letting others be seen as caring for the vulnerable, the young, the old, those our world forgets, the oppressed. These are very simple statements of fact, friends. But with these simple statements, Jesus is challenging us. With these statements, Jesus is telling us that our faith was never meant to be personal. Our faith is not meant to be private. Our faith is meant to be lived. Our faith is meant to be seen. Our faith is meant to be experienced by others. And our faith is meant to be public. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, he was a German Lutheran pastor and was very well known for being outspoken during the time that the Nazis came to power in Germany in the 1930s and 40s. And he would say that our faith should be visible. In his famous work, The Cost of Discipleship, Bonhoeffer wrote about our call to be salt and light. He wrote, quote, "Now disciples must be what they really are. Otherwise, they are not followers of Jesus. The followers are a visible community. Their discipleship visible in action, which lifts them out of the world. Otherwise, it would not be discipleship. And of course, the following is as visible to the world as a light in the darkness or a mountain rising from the plain." Bonhoeffer lived a visible faith. He took seriously the call to follow Jesus. So much so that Bonhoeffer was arrested and executed by the Nazis. His life reminds us, friends, that this call will not always be easy. His life reminds us that this call to be salt and light could be dangerous. Poet Amanda Gorman writes very beautifully about our call to be light. She writes, "For there is always light. If only we're brave enough to see it. If only we are brave enough to be it." There is light in this world, friends. God's light shines on you. And we are called to bravery. We are called to be light. So living that faith, living our faith, and following Jesus means we cannot look away when there are people who are suffering right in front of us. Living our faith, following Jesus, means we protect the innocent. Living our faith, following Jesus, means standing up and speaking out when we see injustice. Living our faith, following Jesus, means we tell the truth. And sometimes we speak truth to power. The world we live in gives us ample opportunities to live our faith. Friends, we are surrounded by a world. We are surrounded by people who need us to be the salt of the earth, who need us to be the light of the world. Friends, here are the facts. You are forgiven. You are loved. You have God's grace. And you are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. Be who you are. Amen.